Success. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about creating documents using mind mapping software. More than simply export to Word, I'll talk about an end-to-end approach, a process for creating any kind of document, an essay, an article, a business report. Before I do that, can I just take a quick poll, ask you a couple of questions? First of all, how many people, when faced with producing a document, start by getting their ideas down into a mind mapping program? Okay. How many of you then switch to Word to do the actual writing? Or by Word, I mean the word processor of your choice. Okay. How many of you use the export feature from your software to get your maps into Word? And how many of those who've used that are satisfied with the results first time? Thank you for that. Okay, so what am I going to talk about? First of all, I'll talk about what I mean by creating a document. What is this end-to-end process? I'll very briefly, probably really just prompt you to think about what the benefits might be. I'm assuming you're all mind mappers, you all use mind mapping software. I think the benefits are pretty well known in the room. I'll then very quickly take you through that end-to-end process. And then finally, if there's time, I might list a few tips and pointers. So, creating documents, what do I mean? I mean from the start to the finish. From the initial bit where I'm thinking, what do I want to talk about? What do I want to write about? Can I get those ideas down? Can I start to work with those, sort, sift, summarise? Can I pick out the key themes? Can I then develop those key themes by adding detail, the text, the body of my document, and eventually get to the point where I've got a traditional linear document, an essay or a report that I can distribute. So that's my end-to-end process. Blank sheet of paper, finished product. Why write documents this way? Why use the mind mapping software to do 90% of the work? Well, as I've already said, I've introduced that, there are a lot of benefits in working visually, in working in the traditional mind map layout of the radial display. You see a lot of maps these days that are done in this right map format, which produce a nice linear thing. I'll probably talk about this a little bit more into the presentation in terms of, I think that has its uses, but not for this creative process. So I think using the mind mapping software, we can better visualise what it is we're trying to do. We can see the narrative, we can see the direction that the story that we're trying to tell is taking us. We can easily change the structure and the flow by dragging and dropping the ideas around the map. Navigation is easier because we're working around a map and not scrolling up and down pages as we write. And I think the key thing for me is it helps maintain focus. We get so lost in the words, the sentences and the paragraphs. What was it I was writing about? Oh, just go back up, look at the map. Yes, I'm still headed in that direction. So those, I think, are the benefits. So, how to do it? For simplicity, I'm going to split it into 3 sections. First of all, I want to focus on creating the content. And the content separate from the finished look, the formatting. I then want to talk about what I've called preparing for export. So here I'm working with the mind mapping software. Here I'm thinking about getting to my end product, but I'm still in the mind mapping software. There's some work to do. And then finally, I've exported my content. I'm now in Word, and I'm looking at this and deciding whether I've got a finished product or not. For the purposes of this exercise, I've created a case study to work through, which is a simplistic business proposal about relocating a factory to Birmingham. Okay, creating the content. As you saw on the first slide, it's that blank sheet of paper. What ideas do I want to get across? What thoughts have I got on this subject? Start putting those down. Here I'm using the brainstorm feature of Mind Genius. Once I've got those ideas down, I need to sort, sift, summarise, start to pick out the key ideas. And here what I've done in the map mode, I've taken those initial thoughts and I've identified the key topics that are coming out of my thinking. What I then do is take those key topics and try and focus them. So moving away from traditional mind mapping where the topic is one or two words, and actually thinking, what is it I want people to know about this subject? So here we're talking about distribution costs. It's not just the general thing, it's saying that if we go to Birmingham, we relocate, we save 7%. So I'm talking here about the difference between a topic, which is general, we could talk about anything. If we all started talking about it, we'd probably understand and talk about something different, to an idea which is focused, and we all know what it is we're going to gather around and discuss and debate. Once I've got those headings, those key ideas, I start to write the text that explains what I want people to understand about that idea. And here you can see I'm working with full sentences, with small paragraphs. To keep track of where I'm going, use the outline mode to see what it's starting to look like as a linear document. Very useful. I keep working that way till I actually think I've got most of the content down and I've got most of the structure right. It's that iterative process, but I get to a point where I think I've got everything I want. I now need to start thinking about how do I get it into Word. The key thing is to understand the relationship between your map and the Word styles, because I'm going to let Word do all the work in terms of formatting. So I'll create a simple template with the styles I want to use. I understand the relationship between the objects in my map and the Word styles. Typically it's hierarchical. Most software maps to something like this as a default, and they all vary to the level of control that you have over them. It would be great if I can produce a map that is totally regular, has the same number of headings, same number of subheadings, it all goes to the same level, and then I have my text. That would be a dream to export. However, I find that I have my main title, I want to write something about that, maybe an introduction. I have one section that has a number of headings, number of subheadings, then my text, but I also have another level, another section where there's just one level. Lots of variations. How do I export that using my software? Because I think all the software is constrained by this hierarchical mapping. Well, I think I've got three broad options. I can either restructure that map into something that's regular. If I'm a Mind Manager user, I can use Nigel Galt's OptiWord, which is brilliant, gives me a lot of control. Or I can make a lot of use of notes. I can take all my topics or branches that were sentences or paragraphs and copy them into the topic that forms the heading that these notes describe. Cut and paste, it's simple. And you can see this here. I've taken the sentences and the paragraphs from here, pasted them in there. You can see them in the note viewer. Keep working like that. You can see how the map is starting to move into notes. And I get to a stage where I've got a map which just has the headings of my document, the key ideas that I want to communicate, and all the explanatory text, the detail, how I arrived there, what's in there, is all behind there in the notes. I mean, linking into something that we saw this morning, you could just present this map and say, we need to move to here for these reasons. However, we're going to export to Word. Before we do that, there's one thing is, if you want to review all of that and you've put everything into notes, use the notes viewers to see that. Latest version of Mind View includes a great viewer whereby you can see not just the outline but all the notes at once, whereas most of the others just show you one note at a time. That's very useful. Export and review. When you're ready, press the button, follow the dialogue of the tool that you're using, choose all the options, make sure you choose your word template, et voila, finished product. I think time only permits me to say, now review this, probably in 2 stages. First of all, look through your Word document for content, because if you're going to edit the content based on what you see, I suggest you go back to the mind map. Don't change Word because you're probably going to overwrite it. When you're happy with the content, you can then start to work in Word and get your final formatting right, copy in the title pages, all the other document features that you need. Finished product. I'm out of time.